Hello and welcome. Today is the 26th day of April 2019. My name is Derek. Welcome to the Money Charts channel. All bets, trades of the like within each his own risk and their own reward. And it is TGIF. TGIF? Well, I'll call it Tether's going into free fall. And it's not, but it might be. At least it might have started. We'll go over gold. We'll go over silver. Move on to the stock market. Move on to the Tether information, a little bit of it, and then, of course, the Bitcoin analysis as well. So, as far as gold is concerned, there's actually more to the story that is not shown on this chart. We can see so by shortening it. So we'll do so when finishing the daily chart, which had this little up run, and with this level of support was supported a small leg lower, now potentially resisting it. It came up yesterday and it pulled back, but again, there is a much more to this story. So this is day number 2, testing in this area of this level of resistance up towards the 18 average of highs. If this has a fast move quickly today, really, up to about 1300 or so, then that would set up a what looks will be like a failed breakout kind of move. But that's on the if scenario that it happens. 4-hour term time frame. What is this? As in looking at such, after the down move, it's found this great support in here. But this came right down the 18 average of lows and is right at the highs again. Single hour time frame. And, well, there's more to that story right there. What's going on this hour? Why did all of a sudden, after doing all of this, did it break all the way down and then go back up? We have to shorten it out even some more. And on the 15-minute chart, here we have it. It goes to this high. This is where you pretty much want to see it hold as a deep pullback, because this low would be higher than this. And there's an ultimate, very quick failed breakdown on the 5-minute chart. And then might as well even show it on the 1. Now, I don't know how much this volume you can go with, but 8 o'clock, it has this move down to 817, going from 1282 to 1278. Small little time rally, and then down from 1279 to 73, and just continuously going up ever since. So I don't know what the preload for this is, but it's a Friday also on the TJIF. It's not just that Tether information, which we'll get into a bit. But and as far as gold is concerned, on the long-term time frame monthly chart, it's in this continuation, although a bit of a ways from it now, with 3 small red downs in a row, of attempting to break out of this in what is like a V-shaped formation. We got the V that would go up here, then the V in here, and a bullish pattern breaking out above this, probably a fast level to or move to 1523 area. Silver is in at $15.04. And as far as it's happening, is it having the same sort of deal as gold would be? And usually they trade together within this. This is having further resistance area of this 1506 level. And really not as much of this failed breakdown, because it's been holding a lot better the previous support from March. But on its single hour term, it had a little bit of it, yes, because here we have it coming back down here, breaking down below many layers of lows, or making lows not seen since 8 a.m. the previous day. And on its 5-minute time frame, I know it's not the greatest of periods, but you get the idea of the story, how it sold back down and then going from 1488 up to 1506. That's barely over 1%. But as far as the situation in here, getting above here, we could potentially have something like we see here, like 4 or 5 nice days in a row. And I mean, long term, it's still in this very low, volatile, tight, sideways consolidation. It still has a long ways to go before it could exit that story. Moving on to the SPY, or the stock market, S&P 500, and the pre-market price at 8:54 a.m. is $292.20. Looking at so via the hourly time frame, that's a very small pierce above, but it's pretty much the exact same price of where it is. And in yesterday's session, yes, it would be, the price action a gap significantly lower, and then came back to this area, but it did end its intraday gains yesterday with a little bit of a decline. Overall, long term with the daily chart, it's been well overextended, grinding its way higher. Whenever it's ready to go down, it will. And on the weekly chart, back to that area I'm not a fan of. I've said before on this channel and trying to predict where the next action is going to be. You have a significant high, a very large of some sort price correction, and then it goes back up to it, and it doesn't, and it's pretty much overextended. And what am I supposed to predict here? Because it could continue going higher, and it could be a large correction. It could be a significant top, and then that's that. Or maybe it's just a small correction. But when you're trying to buy and sell, thus sell in here for a correction, usually these low buybacks mean nothing to me. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, that's a parlay bet. Not only am I betting this is going to be resistance, but I'm betting that I'm going to be able to buy back at whichever level, say in this case 260, and so on and so forth. Let's move on to the Tether, which is, in my view, a not an image, although maybe you could say that. It is an object pretending to be that, in this case, of a true US dollar, which is pretending to be that of a US dollar, which is pretending to be a form of money. And I say pretending to be a form of money, pretending to be gold. And that goes on way, way, way before I and anyone watching this was born. But throwing that to me, that obvious part aside, we are seeing in here, I got the line in at 1 because $1 should be worth $1. That's fungibility. So that's what this is losing. And even before it would have the closeness enough to fungibility where it would resist at 1 like 1 change and support at like 0.98. So 1%, 1.3%, still pretty decent of a percentage move, at least in some cases. But it was relatively fungible or decent enough as a vehicle to pretend to be that of the US dollar. Now, we've had these wild moves before, so when looking at this on the weekly chart, back in here in 2018 in October, the price action, this one went up to like 20 something percent. So right now, this is nothing compared to that. And then it even had a long period of time where it took to settle in to get back to this one number. We could see, and you had this move in here on September, it comes back down, and then it left it on October the 1st. It stayed well above that line, way above here. Then it would stay in at like 227, fall down, but not quite to the 1, and then have all these moves. And then, of course, for the last, ever since like the start of December of last year, it's been above, below, pretty much at this line, and things are changing. Again, on the single hour term time frame, it's got normal market movements that you would expect within different indexes and funds. And still, people are in the process of eliminating Tether. So when this goes up, people want to get out of the one on the right, which is Tether, and into the one on the left, which is true US dollar. This is all Binance based. And there's just some problems they're stating about how they don't really have what's backed. Well, I'm staying completely away from Tether, true US dollar, any of that type of stuff. I'm staying completely away from Bitfinex. I've never ever signed an account with them. So I'm just gonna just watch and see what happens along the way within them. Now, and looking at some Bitcoin prices on two different exchanges, let's just show how they look a little bit differently. And within the Coinbase one first, what we can see in here is that it is first on the level of resistance here is 4100. And just looking at this in here, we'll focus on the right hand side as I now put on the Bitfinex chart. And it's well, got a much bigger update, and it's at 54, not 51. This level of resistance here was also 4273, or 100 higher. And looking at, say, a single hour term time frame, this is what the Bitcoin looks like on the Bitfinex exchange. And now that for the Coinbase one. Yeah, much different as the reason, of course, Bitcoin is going up against the Tether is because that's a way of getting out of Tether. People are distributing that out. So therefore, prices of things amongst all currencies would have to go higher. We're going to see that with all of them. Let's take a look at Bitcoin against the US dollar that's not in the Binance sector or the Tether sector. And this is what the daily chart looks like. This is what the single hour term looks like. And let's take a look at one against the Tether. And it's a couple dollars higher, or about 3% of a move in a comparison. So therefore, I'm just going to just let everything play out. As far as myself today on the market's really not much going on. I'm looking possibly into buying TTC, as it has hit the area which I figured like 1200 was the area I would be looking to buy. And in today's lows, it has already went down to 1258, so it's approaching it. Whether I'm going to play it or not, I'm still not too sure yet. And other ones down, Neo's down a bit, Vericoin up, but I last bought at 8,000, so I got a long ways to go. I reloaded GRS yesterday. I'm waiting for my ADA on Cardano. Nothing for me to do on like Bitcoin Cash. Ethereum, I'm just showing that just for something to do. And then for the upper moves, DGB against the dollar up 1.1 cents. Theta, I got in yesterday at 1800, so nothing else to do there. AidCoin 950, I last bought at 1,000, nothing to do there. And that is it for today's video. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.